Hey guys, tonight we ride out into the gusty plains of 13th century Mongolia, where the grass is ankle high, the wind smells like saddle leather, and dinner could very well be something that stared at you earlier today. You're hunched low over your horse cloak, flapping, and behind you an empire is expanding with terrifying efficiency. But your real concern, that bubbling goat bladder tied to your saddle sloshing ominously. You're about to drink fermented mare's milk. Yes, milk from an actual horse. And yes, it's supposed to be fizzy. You probably won't survive this. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And drop your location and local time in the comments. I always love seeing where you're listening from. Now dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You lean back in the saddle, letting the reins slacken. The mare beneath you snorts and flicks her ears. She's not just your ride, she's your lunch lady too. Welcome to the world of Arag, the fizzy, tangy, slightly alcoholic brew made from fermented mare's milk. Mongol riders like you carry it in leather bags tied tight to the saddle. Each gallop churns the liquid inside. Nature's own mixing machine. By now your taste buds are curious and maybe a little frightened. You unfasten the bulging leather bladder, press the opening to your mouth, and tip it back. The taste, a mix of sour cream champagne and unresolved emotional trauma. It fizzes on your tongue like it's trying to escape. It also hits you with a low-proof buzz, enough to take the edge off a day's ride, but not enough to miss a sudden ambush. Irag isn't just a quirky Mongol refreshment. It's a cornerstone of survival. The steppes are wide and empty, no vineyards, no taverns, and definitely no oat milk lattes. Cows aren't reliable out here. Goats are annoying and sheep are for meat. But horses, you have hundreds. And once a mare gives birth, she's producing. Mongols don't ride pregnant mares, so lactating ones become four-legged breweries. Historians still argue whether the Mongols fermented their mare's milk because it preserved better or because it gave them an edge in morale. Either way, Irag became deeply woven into social life, used in rituals, hospitality, even politics. Offer your guest a cup of Irag and he knows he's among friends. Decline it and, well, saddle up quickly. The process to make it is deceptively simple. You milk the mare, a surprisingly acrobatic task involving ropes, calm whispers, and praying she doesn't kick your face off. The milk is strained, poured into a kukur, a hide bag, and hung near the entrance of the jur. Every time someone walks past, they give it a few good shakes, like a communal smoothie project. In a day or two, voila, Irag, naturally carbonated, not pasteurized. Some batches bubble violently, others are flatter than a steppe horizon. Temperature, microbial balance, and how often it's stirred all change the flavor. Mongol kids even drink it, though their version is less fermented, like beer for toddlers minus the college debt. There's a moment in every Mongol child's life when they drink Arag for the first time, grimace hard enough to dislocate a cheekbone, and then go back for more. You, on the other hand, are still wondering whether it's disrespectful to wipe your tongue on your sleeve. Your horse knickers may be laughing. The cultural weight of Arag goes beyond the drink itself. When you visit someone's gyr, the first thing offered is a shallow bowl of it. Guests are expected to drink with both hands, palms facing up. It's symbolic. You're showing trust, showing you're unarmed. It's also harder to throw the bowl at someone if you're using both hands, which is handy when tribal politics get spicy. In some regions, they store it in hollowed-out tree trunks or ceramic jars. Elsewhere, they hang it in goatskin bags with the goat's fur still attached, just in case you forgot where it came from. It's alive in a sense. Each batch carries bacteria from previous ones, generational microbes passed down like family heirlooms. There's even a quirky Mongol belief that Arag purifies the body. After long campaigns, warriors would guzzle it to cleanse the blood. Of course, if your daily diet consists of raw meat and dust, a sour probiotic milkshake might genuinely feel like a detox. One fringe tale whispers of shamans using Arag in ceremonies, mixing it with herbs to summon visions, or at least intestinal distress, convincing enough to count as a spiritual encounter. A sip of that, and you'd probably see Genghis Khan dancing in the sky. The milk itself has fascinating properties. Mare's milk is lower in fat than cows, but higher in lactose. This makes it perfect for fermentation. It's also rich in vitamins and enzymes, which to the average Mongol means it's good for your guts and your horses approve. Scientific paper zero, intestinal faith unshakable. Mongol herders still drink arag today, mostly in summer when mares are lactating. At festivals, gurs overflow with it. Young men chug it competitively. Old women squint into their cups and declare this year's batch too sour, not sour enough, or just like the one from 1963 when lightning struck the mountain and made the yaks sing. You're feeling it now, a pleasant warmth in the chest. Not drunk, just lightly pickled. Your lips are dry, your tongue is confused, and your belly is working out whether to thank you or stage a protest. But you're also proud. You've sipped the steppes' favorite drink. You've shared in a tradition older than most borders. And now as the sun dips low and the wind picks up, you tie the half-full bladder back to your saddle, give your horse a pat, and ride on one fizzy sip wiser. You ride deeper into the open wild, the sky stretched wide and unforgiving above you. Your horse's steady gait rocks your bones like a lullaby of leather creaks and hoof thuds. But your stomach starts to mutter something a little less musical. Arag is refreshing, sure, but it's not exactly dinner. You reach down, unlace a pouch at your side, and pull out something that looks like it was made to patch roof tiles, not fill bellies. This, my friend, is meat Mongol style, dried to the brink of fossilization and chewier than a revenge plot. You tear off a strip, it fights back. Your teeth sink into it like you're gnawing on ambition. It's Bort's sun-dried meat, the Mongols' answer to expiration dates, refrigeration, and basically anything French. Making Bort's is a low-tech miracle. Thin slices of horse or beef, yes, sometimes camel, are cut with brutal efficiency and hung up to dry in the open air. No salt, no spices, just sun wind and an unspoken agreement that mold better not show its face. Within a week or two, the meat becomes hard, light, and weirdly buoyant, perfect for travel. Historians still argue whether Bort's was invented purely for practicality or if it was also a way to honor meat by stretching its use over months. Either way, it survives not just time but empire. A single animal yields pounds of boars enough to feed you through multiple campaign sieges and possibly 2 unexpected divorces. You store it in pouches lined with felt or hide. It can be eaten as is or boiled back to life in water soup or milk, yes, milk soup. Try not to picture it curdling. As you chew, the flavor hits you not strong, not spiced, but unmistakably real. Like meat with nothing to prove, it's protein in its most stubborn form. You feel it travel down your throat like a stone on a mission. There's something comforting in the silence of Bort's. No sizzle, no aroma, no frills, just meat and memory. The kind of meal that makes you feel more Mongol with every bite. This was what Genghis Khan's armies lived on. Not elaborate stews or royal banquets, but simple slices of sun-dried resolve. You imagine a soldier thousands of miles from home, sitting on a ruined wall in Persia, pulling a strip from his pouch and chewing, like the war was just another reason to keep eating. And here's the fun fringe fact. Some say Bort's was so dry and light that Mongols would grind it into powder and mix it into boiling water, instant meat soup. Like proto-cup noodles if your noodles were bits of a horse and your kettle was a goat's skull. The practice wasn't limited to warriors. Women, elders, and children all relied on Bort's during migrations. Food had to be portable, durable, and unaffected by the weather. Because let's face it, nothing says I love logistics like hauling your entire household across hundreds of miles. Mongols didn't just ride, they packed light, thought fast, and snacked hard. Some pouches contained mystery meat, older, darker, extra chewy. You never really asked what it was. Could be from last spring. Could be older. If it didn't kill you on the first bite, you kept chewing. If it made your tongue numb, you probably just discovered an ancient protein. You watch a fellow rider beside you pull out a strip from his boot. Yes, his boot. Mongols often use the heat of their bodies or the inside of clothing as storage warmers. You wonder briefly what temperature qualifies as jerky-friendly and decide not to think too hard about it. Besides, the dust is probably the only seasoning this meat gets. Even more impressive, Bort's was often bartered. With its incredible shelf life and weight-to-calorie ratio, it was Mongol gold. Steppe merchants might trade a pouch of it for salt wool or even a small favor from someone important. It's said a few clever warriors even gambled with Bort's, wagering strips over archery contests or horse races. Nothing says high stakes like betting dried flank meat on your cousin's aim. Now picture this. You're in a snowstorm miles from camp firewood, soaked your horse cranky. What do you eat? You pull boards from your saddlebag, boil snow in a pot, and toss in a few strips. 10 minutes later, you've got meat soup warm enough to reintroduce blood circulation to your toes. Or maybe you don't even have time for boiling. You just chew and chew and chew. Mongols were known for eating while riding, one hand on the reins, the other yanking meat toward determined molars. It wasn't glamorous, but it worked. Historians debate whether this practicality came at the expense of culinary development. Some argue the Mongols had little interest in developing cuisine. Food was fuel, not pleasure. Others suggest that drying meat was just one chapter of a much more nuanced food culture. After all, they had elaborate feasts, sacred rituals, and more complex dishes when time and resources allowed. But here and now, you're just grateful for what's in your hand. You lean forward slightly, your horse sensing a renewed energy. That stubborn strip of meat is fueling every tendon, every nerve. One old Mongol saying translates roughly to, "A meatless day is a wasted one." A harsh motto, but when you live where nothing grows taller than your kneecap, it makes sense. They didn't waste meat, and they definitely didn't forget it. As you ride on the plains stretch endlessly before you, no cities, no restaurants, just you, your horse, and the tough little miracle that is Bortz. Dried like parchment, packed like treasure, and if you squint a little, it even looks like a victory flag flapping in the breeze as you hold it up for another bite. Your teeth are still working on that last piece of Bortz. You may finish digesting it somewhere over the Himalayas, when a sudden commotion ripples through the riders ahead. Horses snort, heads turn, and before long you're all circling a freshly caught sheep. One of the older warriors dismounts, rolling up his sleeves like he's about to perform open-heart surgery. You watch, half curious, half horrified, as he draws a slender blade from his belt and very gently slices into the animal's neck. Don't worry, the horse isn't next, but you might be if you turn down what happens next. The blood streams out dark and steaming, caught in a shallow wooden bowl. It's handled with care like wine at a royal feast. You take a whiff, it's metallic, rich, almost spicy. Soon herbs and ground organ meats are mixed in. The casing. Oh, just the sheep's cleaned intestines. Yes, we're making sausage. Mongol style, with a strong possibility of hoof prints. Blood sausage, known in some circles as hirsug, is one of the more interactive entries on the step menu. And by interactive, we mean you're intimately involved from field to feast. You can't really get more farm to table than killing and cooking on horseback. Mongols didn't wait to get home. If you were hungry and the flock looked plump, dinner was immediate. The process is swift, brutal, and weirdly elegant. The sheep's blood is whisked with marrow-fat chopped onions if you're lucky, and sometimes buckwheat or crushed root vegetables, assuming you passed near any plants that weren't trying to kill you. This thick pink slurry is then poured into the intestines using a horn funnel. It's tied off at intervals, looped like garlands and draped over a wooden rack to cook above hot coals or beside a fire pit. You're handed a freshly roasted link, its skin glistening with fat. You squeeze it between your fingers, it's bouncy like a meat balloon. You bite. The casing snaps. The inside floods your tongue with warmth, iron, and an oddly comforting blend of everything that was once pulsing in that sheep's veins. It's disturbingly delicious. Historians still argue whether the Mongols picked up this sausage-making technique from Central Asian neighbors or if it developed independently. Some point to Turkic influences. Others insist that when you ride with your food supply, blood sausage is just inevitable. One quirky belief among older Mongol herders, drinking fresh sheep blood could boost vitality, especially for warriors weakened by cold or injury. Think of it like a medieval energy shot, minus the branding, and plus a bit of screaming. Then there's the horse part. Yes, Mongols had a method for drawing small amounts of blood from their horses without killing or crippling them. A quick nick in a vein, nothing serious. The blood was collected in a bowl mixed with hot milk, sometimes with herbs or even curd. This wasn't cruelty, it was calculated resourcefulness. You couldn't always afford to slaughter livestock, but blood that was replenishable. You picture yourself doing it, kneeling beside your loyal mare, murmuring apologies as you make a shallow cut. The blood is warm thick and starts clotting within minutes. It smells like wet copper. You sip it mixed with hot milk, and your stomach reacts like it's both comforted and alarmed. Welcome to nomadic multitasking. It wasn't just about calories. Blood was symbolic. It connected the animal to the rider, the herd to the people. There were taboos around wasting it, mishandling it, or spilling it unnecessarily. When it was consumed, it was often with a silent nod of thanks, less ceremony, more reverence. A fringe tale from the northern steppes tells of a warrior who only ate blood sausage before battle, believing it bound the spirit of the animal to his strength. He was said to ride faster, strike harder, and dream of thunder. Of course, he was also likely iron deficient and running purely on adrenaline and raw determination. But hey, myths need no fact checkers. As you finish your sausage-licking greasy fingertips, the camp buzzes with chatter. Someone makes a joke about the blood tasting better than their first wife's stew. Someone else throws a bone at him. Horses nicker nearby, chewing calmly, unbothered by their role as occasional donors. You glance down at the emptied blood bowl. It's been wiped clean. Nothing wasted. Mongols saw every part of the animal as purposeful. Organs, bones, tendons, even eyeballs were sometimes boiled and eaten. But blood held its own niche halfway between food medicine and survival trick. You start to feel warm, not just from the meal, but from the camaraderie around you. There's something binding in shared meals, especially the messy primal kind. You didn't just eat the animal, you honored it. You used every drop. You fed a camp, powered a journey, perhaps even appeased an ancestor or two. As the wind picks up, someone tosses you a cloth to wipe your hands. It smells faintly of horse, which by now is practically your cologne. The sun sinks lower, casting long shadows across the plains. You mount up again, stomach full, mouth still tasting of salt and iron, and you ride forward richer in protein, poorer in squeamishness. You're starting to learn that on the Mongol menu, nothing is wasted. Nothing is too strange, and if it bleeds, it probably ends up seasoned, steamed, or sizzled. You ride into the late afternoon with a sausage-stuffed belly and a mild existential awareness that you've just consumed something once circulating. The landscape rolls on like an old drumbeat. No trees, no fences, just the color of dust in 50 shades of beige. Somewhere behind you, the wind carries the faint smell of singed hair and boiled guts. But up ahead, something better. Smoke. Not from a wildfire, not from a city either, but the kind of smoke that promises warmth and, more importantly, fat. Your horse crests a small ridge and you spot it. A family Jura yurt perched like a dot on the earth's canvas. Outside, a woman is stirring something in a battered metal cauldron. It bubbles thick and yellow-white, and as you get closer, the smell hits your sinuses like a creamy hammer. Butter, but not just any butter. This is Urum, the Mongols' morning gold. Urum is clotted cream, but richer, denser. It's made by slowly heating fresh milk and skimming the luscious top layer that forms as it cools. That layer is saved, often layered into bowls or skins, where it thickens further. It's eaten plain or spread on bread when there's bread, which isn't often. More usually, it's just scooped with a finger or smeared on dried curds. Some even melted into hot tea. You dismount and are handed a wooden spoon coated with the stuff. It melts immediately on your tongue, oily and sweet like butter that spent time at a spa. It coats your throat like armor, and you suddenly understand why Genghis Khan might have started his day with a goblet of the stuff. Warm fat equals warm warrior. Historians still argue whether Urum had ceremonial importance or was just high-calorie convenience. It may have been both. In leaner seasons, even a few mouthfuls could tide you over for a long, cold ride. And in festivals, the freshest Urum was set out in bowls like gleaming white trophies of a good season. But wait, before you get too cozy, here comes the fringe, twist the cream ladder. Yes, that's what some Mongols called the method of layering each batch of clotted cream into the same container over several days, creating visible strata, older, firmer cream at the bottom, newer, fluffier cream on top. A dairy time capsule. Some believed the bottommost layer, if aged just right, had medicinal properties. Others just liked the taste. You take another spoonful and feel like you're eating history, literally. Next comes chaga'an, rendered milk fat, often from sheep or yak. It's made by churning butter, boiling it, and then clarifying it into a golden shelf-stable fat that can last months, maybe longer if kept in the right hide container. This was steppe margarine, if margarine made you feel like you could bench press a goat. You're invited to dip a fistful of dried curd into it. The curd cracks in your mouth like ceramic, but the fat wraps it in velvet. Your body practically sings. Mongol riders could carry small containers of clarified fat to mix into tea soup or rub onto raw patches of skin. One travel account from a much later European visitor claimed Mongol warriors smeared it on their saddles to soften the leather and then licked it off during long rides. You decide to file that under things best left unconfirmed. And speaking of tea, here comes a bowl of it. Not dainty jasmine or green leaf. This is sautéed tsai or salted milk tea, and it's an entire food group disguised as a drink. Strong black tea leaves are boiled with water salt milk and often a dollop of that golden fat. It tastes like the ocean met a farm, and they had a very warm, slightly confusing baby. You sip it slowly. The salt hits first, then the cream, then the tannins. It shouldn't work, but it does. It warms you from the inside out. Mongol families drink this several times a day. It hydrates, nourishes, and makes you forget how cold the wind can get when it decides your ears are its enemy. There's a scholarly debate about when exactly salted milk tea entered Mongol tradition. Some believe it dates back to early alliances with Tibetan or Uyghur neighbors. Others suggest it evolved independently as a clever way to get both hydration and calories in a single sip. Either way, it's stuck around for centuries, and judging by how fast you empty your bowl, it's not leaving anytime soon. By now, you're sitting on a low felt cushion surrounded by wool warmth and fat in every conceivable form. The woman who stirred the pot earlier hands you a strip of fried dough bortsog. It's simple flour fat, sometimes a drop of sugar if they had honey or dried berries to spare. You dip it in urim and bite. Crunchy, soft, sweet, savory. It's not dessert, it's not breakfast, it's both. Mongol snacks blur the lines like that. Anything that fills your belly and doesn't freeze solid by nightfall counts as a win. You glance around the gur. Baskets of dried cheese balls hang in the corners. Jugs of fermenting milk sit near the fire. A rack of boiled sheep bones cools on the far end. It's not a kitchen, it's an ecosystem. And somehow the logic of it starts to make sense. Mongol food isn't about recipes, it's about function, preservation, caloric punch. It's also about using what you have where you are without apology. You won't find elaborate spice blends here. You won't find plating techniques, but you will find a mother handing her child a hunk of buttered curd and calling it love. Your own belly feels heavy now but satisfied. You thank your host with a bow and step back into the twilight where your horse waits like the world's largest Uber. The sun is slipping behind the steps' low hills and a cool breeze rises. You mount up again, your breath mixing with the chilled air. Behind you, the scent of fat and fire drifts upward. Ahead, the road vanishes into blue-gray mist. But you ride with warmth inside, butter in your belly, tea in your veins, and the creeping suspicion that you may never crave a salad again. You ride for hours, lulled by the rhythm of hooves and the gentle sloshing of all that butter in your stomach. The moon's up now, cold and clear, casting silver across the plains. You feel it fatigue stretching your limbs, wind tugging at your clothes, and hunger sneaking back in like a bored fox. Again, already welcome to the metabolism of the mounted nomad. Fortunately, the campfire ahead signals more than warmth. Someone's already working on tonight's main course, korkog. Say that 5 times fast while chewing on a mutton bone. A pot clangs into place over the flames blackened from 1,000 meals. But here's where it gets fun. This isn't a stew in the regular sense. This is pressure cooking Mongol edition. Instead of a fancy stovetop device, they use red-hot river rocks. First, chunks of mutton are hacked apart bone-in. These go into a heavy metal canister, sometimes an old milk jug or repurposed oil drum. Next, they drop in the glowing hot stones, fresh from the fire. Then potatoes when they're lucky carrots, onions, if you're near a trade post. Salt, a splash of water, maybe some dried herbs if someone's aunt is feeling generous. The lid is sealed tight. Then the pot is shaken like a maraca by someone who probably arm wrestled a bear once. You're handed one of the rocks afterward. It's wrapped in cloth but still scalding. You're supposed to pass it between your palms, it's said to improve circulation ease, joint pain, and maybe cure heartbreak, or at least distract you from the cold. Historians still argue whether korkog was an invention of necessity during wartime. After all, carrying pots and hot stones beats hauling a whole kitchen, or whether it evolved from older Turkic or Siberian meat cooking methods. What's clear is that the Mongols elevated it into both a meal and a ritual. When the lid finally comes off, steam billows out like dragon breath. The scent hits you like a meat comet, smoky, earthy, rich. Someone fishes out a hunk of lamb with a knife tip, slaps it onto a tin plate, and gestures at you. You grab it with your fingers. Utensils, please. This is combat cuisine. The meat peels away from the bone, soft from the steam, but still kissed with fire. There's nothing delicate about it. Your hands are greasy within seconds, and there's a splinter of bone in your teeth before long, but it's hearty in the way only battle-ready food can be. You chew slowly, relishing the warmth as it spreads down your spine. Everything else fades the wind, the dark, the aching in your thighs from today's ride. Then someone passes around the marrow, the good stuff, cracked bones with glistening centers. You suck it out warm, buttery, faintly sweet. This was the Mongols' version of an energy bar. Dense, nutrient-rich, no wrapper. You remember hearing once that Genghis Khan's elite warriors always carried dried meat, dried curds, and sometimes cooked marrow in leather pouches? The trio covered fat, protein, and calcium. What more could you want at the edge of the known world? Now for the fringe detail. A few warriors nearby are quietly telling a story, a kind of superstition. They say the bones of a korkog meal must be left facing east toward the rising sun. It honors the spirits of the hunt and invites future bounty. Others scoff, tossing theirs over their shoulders. But still you notice more bones quietly arranged pointing eastward, just in case. One younger rider offers you a piece of crispy lambskin seared from where it brushed the hot stones. It crackles between your teeth like burnt parchment, oozing fat and flavor. You grin despite yourself. A week ago, you'd gag at the idea. Now you're hunting for seconds. Korkog isn't fancy. It isn't fast, but it's deeply communal. Everyone eats from the same pot. Everyone gets the same oil-slicked hands. Even the dogs hover politely at the edge of the fire, waiting for discarded scraps. You toss a bone toward one. It disappears in 2 crunches. There's another method you hear them mention, budog. Similar in result, wildly different in execution. Instead of a pot, they stuff hot stones directly into the belly of a freshly slaughtered goat, then seal it shut and roast the entire carcass over open flame. The pressure builds from the inside. The skin crisps. The meat steams. The result, a portable, furry slow cooker. And yes, they sometimes do this while riding, or on the battlefield. Because when you've just won a skirmish and someone's goat is now available, you don't waste time. Boiling meat with hot rocks. That may sound like caveman logic, and it kind of is. But that's the point. It's primal, efficient, and it works. Mongol cooking isn't about finesse. It's about maximizing energy, using every part, and feeding a camp of tired, hungry warriors with as little waste as possible. There's a scholarly debate about whether hot stone cooking was a seasonal tradition or a practical all-year method. Some think it was reserved for feasts and victories. Others say it was just another Tuesday when your horse hadn't limped away. You sip more salty milk tea still warm from earlier. One of the older riders nudges you, offers a chunk of roasted lung. It's spongy chewy with a smoky flavor you can't quite describe. You nod politely and eat it. He smiles approving. Across the fire, someone has lined up the used cooking stones. They'll cool by morning, maybe get reused tomorrow. The pot is empty. Bellies are full. The sky is crisp and sprinkled with stars. You lean back against your saddle, meat-slick fingers folded across your chest, the scent of fire and lamb still clinging to your tunic. Tonight you don't miss spices, or plates, or forks. You don't even miss bread. Because in this world, food isn't about variety. It's about fuel-shared labor and stories passed between bites. It's about survival with flavor, and maybe just a little showmanship. Tomorrow, you're told, might be Budog night, so don't get too comfortable. You wake up to cold air and the low grunt of your horse already chewing something that is definitely not grass, probably leather. Mongol mornings are not gentle. They arrive hard and gray with frost on your boots and the scent of fermented milk drifting lazily from the nearest gyre. But today's breakfast isn't butter or cream or even meat. No, this morning you're introduced to the tart, effervescent soul of the steppe Arag fermented mare's milk. Yes, horse milk. Yes, it's sour. Yes, you're going to drink it. You're handed a wide wooden bowl filled with a bubbly, cloudy white liquid that smells like yogurt left on a radiator. You hesitate. Everyone's watching. You drink. First impression, tangy. Second, fizzy. Third, what on earth is that aftertaste? Somewhere between buttermilk and weak kombucha arag leaves your tongue confused but intrigued. It fizzes not from carbonation, but from active fermentation, the same kind that gives sourdough its bite, except this gets you slightly tipsy if you drink enough. Which, spoiler alert, you will. Arag isn't just a novelty, it's a staple. It's high in protein, rich in probiotics, mildly alcoholic, and astonishingly good at hydrating nomads in dry climates. It's also a symbol of hospitality. Refusing a bowl of it can be seen as an insult, especially if someone just spent hours milking a mare that really didn't want to be milked. Historians still argue whether early forms of arag predate Mongol unification or emerged as a result of the increasing demand for portable nutritious beverages among riders. What we know is that the process is time-honored and impressively hands-on. The milk is poured into a kahur, a leather bag made from animal hide, then stirred or churned with a wooden paddle up to 1,000 times a day. Yes, 1,000. You'd think they'd outsource that, but tradition doesn't sleep. The kahur is often hung near the entrance of the gur, so everyone coming or going gives it a few whacks. It's a little like shaking a protein shake every time you walk through a doorway. Only this one occasionally hisses when the fermentation hits just right. And here's a quirky little fringe detail: some families flavor their arag with bits of pine resin, dried fruit, or even traces of juniper smoke, claiming it enhances the depth of the flavor or wards off evil spirits. Others insist plain is best, no fruity nonsense in their sacred buzz juice, thank you very much. You sit with a group of riders who've each got their own wooden bowl. They drink slowly, thoughtfully. One of them toasts the spirits of the ancestors before tipping the edge of his bowl onto the ground, an offering. Then he downs the rest and wipes his mustache with the back of his hand, sighing like he just finished a symphony. You follow suit, and though your stomach still isn't sure whether this is breakfast or science, you admit it's refreshing. And weirdly, it makes you feel lighter. Arag is seasonal. It's made when mares are in milk, usually late spring through early autumn. The rest of the year, it's replaced with other fermented dairy products, but none quite match the popularity or sheer icon status of arag. Some Mongols say you're not truly on the steppe until you've ridden a horse and drunk its milk. You're halfway there. Now, you may be wondering what happens when you ferment mare's milk even longer. Well, buckle up, because the answer is Arki, a distilled version of arag. Steppe vodka, Mongol moonshine. It's made by boiling fermented milk over low heat and capturing the evaporated alcohol. The result is clear, strong, and not for the faint of heart. Arki isn't served to everyone. It's mostly reserved for elders, special guests, and ceremonies. But if someone likes you or wants to test your liver, they might offer a shot. You're lucky or unlucky enough to be handed one now. It smells like regret and faint yogurt. You sip. Your tongue curls. It burns going down but leaves a surprising softness behind. Mongols claim it opens the chest and steadies the nerves. You're inclined to believe them, mainly because your hands stop shaking and your boots feel warmer. There's a scholarly debate over whether Arki distillation was a local innovation or borrowed from Persian and Chinese practices. Regardless, it became popular enough that by the Yuan dynasty, Mongol elites were known to gift barrels of it to friends, rivals, and unlucky diplomats. You've only had one shot, but you already feel the warmth crawling up your spine. Someone next to you mutters that too much Arki turns your brain to cheese. Another counters that not enough Arki makes you forget how to dance. You decide balance is key. Speaking of cheese, yes, there's more. Mongols make biaslag, a semi-soft cheese from cow or yak milk. It's mild, slightly salty, and often eaten with tea or melted into dishes. It doesn't melt like mozzarella, but it softens just enough to feel indulgent on a cold morning. Then there's the infamous Arol dried curds. You've seen them before hanging in canvas sacks or stored in sacks like weird candy. They're rock-hard, chalky, and sour. Children suck on them like jawbreakers. Adults gnaw them like edible meditation. They last forever and taste like a goat had an argument with a lemon. And here's the thing: they grow on you, especially when paired with tea or dipped in melted butter. You find yourself pocketing a few pieces just in case your next ride gets too long or too quiet. You sip more arog, the second bowl goes down easier. Your body's adjusting. The initial shock has mellowed into a kind of comfort, a tangy, fizzy rhythm that matches the breath of the horses and the hum of early sunlight across the steppe. In the distance, someone's already practicing archery, loosing arrows from horseback like it's a casual Tuesday. You watch for a moment, then turn back to your breakfast bowl, catching the last sour bubbles before they vanish. You're full a little tipsy and vaguely heroic. You might not survive the next battle, but if you do, it'll be thanks to a fermented horse. The day warms up fast. One moment you're sipping arog under a frost-dusted sky. The next you're sweating under your deal, your long tunic clinging to your back as you ride. The air smells like dust and wild thyme, your horse huffing under the sun as if even it's had enough. But there's no slowing down. You're following a small caravan of riders headed toward a seasonal encampment. More horses, more families, more food. The promise of new flavors keeps your stomach hopeful. Mongol hospitality, after all, doesn't end with arag and mutton. It evolves with the landscape. By midday, the riders dismount near a low-lying river bend. Someone sets about pitching jurors while others unpack bundles of food wrapped in hide and cloth. You're curious, no meat roasting, no bubbling pots. Instead, you're handed a thick beige square wrapped in cheesecloth. It looks like soap. It smells kind of sweet. Congratulations, you're about to eat tarag, the Mongol version of yogurt. Tarag is made from cow or yak milk, fermented over days in a wooden bowl. It's thicker than arag with less bite, more creaminess, and enough friendly bacteria to open its own spa retreat. It's eaten straight, mixed with flour for a doughy porridge, or even chilled into icy blocks during summer. Today, yours is dolloped into a small clay bowl and topped with crumbled arul. Crunchy on top, creamy beneath, tangy all around. You take a bite, your tongue thanks you. It's refreshing in a way butter never was. Your teeth complain about the arul, but the combination works a balancing act of texture and taste. Mongols don't do dessert in the modern sense, but this is the closest thing to a dairy sundae on the steppe. Historians still argue whether trog was consumed primarily for nutrition or whether it also played medicinal roles. There are accounts of its use in wound treatment, fever reduction, and even as a beauty mask. Apparently, even Genghis Khan was rumored to dab a bit on his battle-worn cheeks. You wouldn't be surprised. This stuff could moisturize a yak. Later, someone calls you over to help grind flour. No, not wheat. There's not much wheat out here. You're crushing dried millet, barley, and wild grains into a coarse powder using a stone mortar and pestle. The sound is rhythmic grounding. You sneeze as flour dust coats your nostrils, and the old woman beside you cackles like you just told a joke. With flour in hand, it's time to make sagan, edi literally white food, a term covering a whole family of dairy-based staples. You mix flour with cream and sugar, if it's available, knead it into a soft dough, and form small balls or twists. These are either eaten soft or dried rock hard for storage. Here's your quirky tidbits. Some Mongols carve tiny decorative patterns into these dairy snacks, believing it brings luck or pleases the sky spirits. Others shape them like small animals, goats, birds, even mythical beasts, turning their rations into edible art. You're handed a goat-shaped one. You try not to eat the head first. You fail. Then comes urim. Oh yes, urim. If Mongol cuisine had royalty, this would be it. Urim is clotted cream collected from the top of boiled milk, thick as frosting, and twice as dangerous. It's spread on bread, mixed into tea, or eaten straight with a spoon. Today, it's scooped into a wooden bowl and handed to you with what can only be described as reverence. You dip your finger in, rich, buttery sweet, like the world's best cream cheese had a love child with whipped butter. You want to bathe in it. Instead, you smear it on a piece of fried dough called bortsog. Bortsog, the deep-fried breadstick of dreams, crisp on the outside, soft within, sometimes sprinkled with sugar, sometimes dunked in tea. It's the Mongol version of a donut minus the guilt, and plus the possibility of being carried in a saddlebag for days. You try it with urim, then again, then again. You're not even pretending to be modest about it anymore. Historians debate whether bortsog was a battlefield snack or a ceremonial treat. What's undeniable is its versatility: dessert, breakfast, travel ration, baby pacifier, you name it. As the afternoon wanes, you notice the gyrs are fully set up. Smoke curls from the stovepipes, and laughter floats on the breeze. Kids run around chasing goats, Elders sit under the shade, sipping tea and gossiping about someone's failed marriage and someone else's excellent mare. Life here revolves around food, family, and the land, and each dish ties them all together. Someone calls you over with a teasing grin. You brace yourself another shot of Arky. No, this time it's Ease Guy clarified dried curds made from boiled milk solids. It's like hard, crumbly cheese jerky. You nibble. It's salty, a little nutty, weirdly addictive. It squeaks against your molars. You make a face. They laugh approvingly. You're officially one of them. Fringe alert, one elder claims that Ease Guy, when ground and mixed with snow, cures sore throats and heartbreaks. Another swears it's only good for throwing at lazy grandchildren. You'll keep both in mind. The sun begins to lower. Shadows stretch long across the grass. Dinner's not ready yet, but you're surprisingly full. Tarag Urum Bortsog Izgi, they've layered your belly in a warm, fatty armor. A few of the riders are preparing for a feast tomorrow, something big. You catch whispers of rare meats, borrowed spices, and a traveling trader with something strange in his packs. You're curious, also slightly afraid. But for now you lie back on a rolled-up saddle, arms crossed, lips sticky with cream and fried dough crumbs. The clouds move lazily above. A herder sings somewhere far off. And you realize something strange. Despite the salt, the sour, the goat-shaped snacks, you're starting to crave this food. Not just tolerate it, crave it. Which is good, because tomorrow things get experimental. You wake to the sound of water boiling and the unmistakable scent of something meatier than milk. Finally, your stomach perks up like a loyal dog hearing its leash jingle. A rider waves you over, grinning, and gestures toward a large black pot suspended over an open fire. Inside, bones bob in a rich broth, steam curling like incense. This, you're told, is the beginning of Shoal Mongol soup. Today's version is a bone broth stew thickened with flour, salt, and fat rendered from yesterday's mutton. It's basic, hearty, and deeply satisfying. You're handed a bowl. You cradle it like it's sacred. The broth is salty and warm, the kind that makes you forgive past grievances. Bits of boiled meat float alongside thick-cut noodles that aren't really noodles, just flat ribbons of dough torn by hand. Each bite sticks to your ribs in the best possible way. But the real star of the day is arriving in stages, slowly, ceremoniously. You catch glimpses as sheep being led behind a ger, two men with knives but no rush in their motions, and a fire being stoked with careful intention. You've stumbled into the preparation of budog, a cooking method that defies modern logic and makes campfire hot dogs look like sad sausages. Budog is the act of cooking an entire goat or marmot, depending on the season, from the inside out using hot stones. Yes, hot stones. Stay with me. First, the animal is skinned, not just butchered, but carefully peeled like a sock, keeping the skin in one piece. Then the organs and meat are placed back inside the carcass, along with onion, salt, and herbs. Red-hot stones pulled directly from the fire are shoved into the cavity. The whole thing is tied shut and roasted over flames or hung near a fire like a strange, sizzling piñata. You watch the process with a mix of awe and mild horror. It's one thing to sear a steak. It's another to cook a goat using lava pebbles while it hisses like a steam engine. The skin balloons, slightly fat seeping from seams, smoke curling in odd directions. The smell is incredible, wild, gamey, primal. Historians still argue whether budog originated as a wartime innovation, no pots, no problem, or a festive spectacle reserved for special occasions. Either way, it's impressive. And when it's finally ready, the herder makes a show of slicing it open, releasing a burst of aromatic steam that smells like roasted heaven in faint singed fur. The first bite worth every minute of anticipation. The meat is tender, infused with a smoky richness and the earthy flavor of stone-cooked fat. You chew slowly, reverently. Mongol warriors used to eat this before battle, probably so they'd face death with a smile and greasy hands. As if that weren't enough, you're now invited to help prepare kushur. It's deep-fried, crescent-shaped meat pies made from minced mutton, onions, and spices wrapped in dough. Think of them as the Mongol cousin of empanadas, if empanadas could survive being stuffed in a saddlebag for 3 days. You roll dough stuff, filling crimp edges. Then you fry them in sizzling fat until golden brown and blistered. You bite into one and the juices scald your tongue. You regret nothing. The crisp exterior, the peppery lamb interior, it's rich and portable, the Mongol fast food of champions. Quirky fact, some families mark their hushur with little twists or stamps on the edge to identify whose batch is whose an edible signature. You're encouraged to make your own shape. You try a lightning bolt. It looks like a deflated worm. They cheer anyway. The feast continues. Next up, booze-steamed dumplings filled with spiced meat. Similar to kushur but moister and cooked gently over boiling water instead of scorched oil. They're juicy, delicate, and perfect for colder nights when fried food feels too aggressive. You're handed 5, you eat 6. No one asks questions. As night falls, a storyteller begins reciting tales of warriors who cooked entire marmots during hunts, stuffing them with hot rocks and watching steam puff out of the nostrils like dragon breath. Apparently, marmot boudog is a thing. Less common now, but once a favorite of the truly hardcore. You're not offered marmot tonight, but someone whispers that you might meet one tomorrow. You don't ask if they mean a live marmot or a cooked one. You just nod. There's one last surprise, a long-coiled sausage grilled over open fire. It's made from the animal's intestines, stuffed with minced organ meat, fat, and herbs. You flinch, but someone raises an eyebrow. You can't back out now. The first bite is surprisingly tender, rich, salty, a little funky, the kind of thing your modern palate rebels against, but your body says, yes, more iron, please. This is kazi, a dish more common among Turkic neighbors, but occasionally embraced by Mongols during festivals. It's not for everyday use, it's for remembering you have ancestors who stared down wolves and didn't flinch. Fringe tradition, some say eating kazi before a journey grants endurance. Others claim it's best eaten while sharing secrets. You try to think of a secret worth spilling, but your brain is busy digesting goat skin and stone steam. You lean back, breath heavy, belly fuller than it's been in days. The fire crackles. Someone passes around the last of the arki. Someone else starts singing a low throat humming song that seems to vibrate your spine. You're warm from within, not just from the food, but from the strange honor of being fed like this, trusted like this. You've eaten broth dumplings, fried pies, grilled intestines, and a stone-roasted goat in a sock. Somehow you're still alive. Slightly meat-sweaty, but alive. Tomorrow, they say, is milk day again. For now, though, you savor the rich, meaty afterglow. A feast fit for a Khan, and for you lucky outsider that you are. The sun hasn't quite risen when you're nudged awake by the faint smell of smoke curling into your jaw. You blink away sleep and sit up stretching limbs that ache pleasantly from yesterday's adventures and overeating. Today is different, lighter, sweeter, and your mouth waters before you even realize why. Today is the day of Irag, the famed Mongol fermented mare's milk, the drink that puts the whole steppe on its toes. You remember the first time you tasted it, bubbly tart, slightly sour with a hint of grassiness and enough fizz to make soda jealous. You thought, is this some kind of joke? But no. This was the official beverage of warriors, herders, and everyone in between. You follow the riders to a wide clearing dotted with gurs. The air smells fresh, dew-laden, and sweet like crushed hay. Mare's milk is brought out in wooden churns called kuni. You watch as riders begin the ritual of shaking the milk vigorously, sometimes up to an hour, to encourage fermentation. It's a careful balance. Too little shaking and the milk won't bubble. Too much and it turns bitter. You try your hand at the churn. It's a workout, but oddly soothing, the rhythmic shaking, a slow dance between arm and air. You're reminded of those ancient tribes who developed yogurt thousands of years ago and wonder, did they ever get tired of churning? Historians still argue whether Arag was a discovery born out of necessity or pure chance. While you work, someone offers a curious snack, tarag cheese crisps. These are thin, brittle shards of dried yogurt, crunchy as potato chips but tangy like feta. They're addictive. You find yourself munching through a handful while trying not to embarrass yourself in front of the herders. Another quirky tidbit, some Mongols believe the bubbles in arag contain the souls of horses, making the drink both a spiritual and physical tonic. You're pretty sure this is the reason they say you should never refuse a sip. That, and the fact that turning down arag is akin to refusing a hug from the steppe itself. As you sip more arag, the world blurs softly. You feel light, energized, almost floaty, like you're tethered to the earth by nothing more than a thin leather strap and the smell of fresh hay. A child nearby laughs and offers you a taste from their own cup, eyes bright with mischief. There's more than just milk to this day. A line of women knead dough and shape bortsog, those golden fried breads you've come to love. Some sprinkle them with powdered sugar, others with crushed nuts. You help your fingers sticky with dough and oil. Suddenly, a rider approaches, carrying a basket woven from willow twigs. Inside are small round cakes made from millet and honey, a rare treat called bortsog. They're soft, chewy, and perfumed with wildflowers. You pop one in your mouth and realize that Mongol cuisine isn't all about meat and dairy. The steppe gives sweetness too. The afternoon brings a competition, a traditional horse race, where riders test speed and skill. You watch mesmerized as horses thunder across the vast plains, dust clouds trailing behind like miniature sandstorms. The riders shout and cheer, their voices echoing against the distant mountains. Someone offers you sute chai, the salty milk tea. It's an acquired taste, hot, slightly salty, with hints of butter and astringency from tea leaves boiled together. You sip slowly, appreciating the complex flavor that warms your throat and steadies your spirit. Historians still argue whether salty tea originated with Tibetan influences or if it was a native innovation designed for endurance during long rides. Either way, it's essential Mongol fuel. The day winds down with communal singing and dancing. You sit near the fire belly, full ears, ringing with folk tunes and horse hoofbeats fading into twilight. Your hands still smell faintly of milk and flour, your heart a little fuller than before. You realize that the secret menu of the Mongol horse riders isn't just about food. It's about connection to the land, to the animals, and to each other. And after all the strange and wonderful tastes you've encountered, you're beginning to understand why. Tomorrow promises new mysteries. For now, you rest warm and content, dreaming of fermented milk and wild rides. The chill of dawn wraps around you like a woolen blanket as you stumble from your ger, the lingering taste of erig still fresh on your tongue. Today is a day for Arki Mongol distilled spirit, a hard, fiery counterpart to the soft, effervescent erig. You can feel the tension in the air as riders prepare for the rituals surrounding this potent drink. It's not for the faint-hearted, and you probably won't survive more than a few sips without turning as red as a summer sun. Arki is distilled from fermented milk or grains, a process that's been honed over centuries. The result, a clear, sharp liquor that warms your insides and makes your tongue loosen. The herders take it seriously. Arki is both a social lubricant and a spiritual offering. Refusing it is bad manners. Drinking too much is a rite of passage. You're handed a small wooden cup and told to drink deeply. The first gulp is shocking, like a slap with a wet fish, but then warmth spreads a comforting fire that pushes the cold from your bones. You cough. They laugh. Welcome to the club. Historians still argue whether Arki originated purely from milk distillation or if it was influenced by Central Asian grain spirits. Either way, it's as essential to Mongol culture as horses and horseshoes. While nursing your second cup, you're introduced to Arul once again, but this time in a new form. These are tiny, hard curds flavored with herbs or sometimes even chili flakes designed to pair with Arki. Crunching on Arul while sipping Arki is like a flavor handshake, salty, spicy, and strangely refreshing. You notice the ritualistic side of drinking. Before the first sip, a rider stands and pours a small amount on the ground, an offering to the spirits of the steppe. It's a quiet moment, a nod to ancestors in the land. You try to mirror the gesture, but end up spilling most of it on your boot. The group chuckles warmly. You're forgiven. The night stretches on with singing and story swapping. Tales of legendary drinkers who could outlast horses, legends of spirits who favored the brave, and the occasional warning about the dangers of overindulgence fill the air. One writer recounts a tale of a Khan who lost a battle because he'd spent the night too deeply in Arki's embrace. You're not sure whether to believe it or just appreciate the lesson. Fringe lore whispers that Arki can open your mind to the steppe's secrets, or alternatively, that it might make you see things better left unseen. You glance nervously at a flickering shadow near the fire. It winks. Or maybe that was just your imagination. The final drink of the night is accompanied by a simple yet surprising snack, kushur, dipped in a sweet sauce made from fermented maize milk and wild berries. The mix of smoky, fatty fried dough with the tangy sweet sauce creates a flavor explosion you didn't know you needed. As you lean back, your head spinning gently, you catch yourself humming along to the throat singers. The blend of moonlight, firelight, and the sharp sting of Arki creates a perfect timeless moment. You're no longer a visitor here. You're a participant, part of an ancient swirling dance of food, drink, and camaraderie. Tomorrow, you're told, brings a day of rest, just milk and mild dishes to recover from tonight's firewater. You nod. Your body agrees. You wake slowly, the morning sun spilling gold across the endless steppe like a gentle promise. Today is quieter, a day to recover from the heady night of Arki and savor the simpler, softer flavors of Mongol life. But don't be fooled. Even on rest days, the secret menu of the horse riders reveals subtle treasures. First, you're served chokir, a lightly fermented yogurt drink that's creamy, tangy, and just a little sweet, less fizzy than arag, but somehow more soothing. It's the step's answer to a comforting hug in a cup. You sip it while watching the herders mend tack and brush down their horses, the rhythmic brushing sound, a kind of gentle white noise. The meal that follows is modest banch, small boiled dumplings filled with minced mutton, onions, and wild herbs. Unlike the richer booze you had before, these are lean and delicate, steamed in a pot without oil. You appreciate the simplicity. It's the Mongol version of health food, and you almost feel virtuous eating them. A strange, dusty spice decorates the table, juniper berries crushed into a powder and sprinkled sparingly over meat and bread. Their piney aroma cuts through the richness of the dishes, adding an unexpected brightness. You learn that juniper was often used not just for flavor, but also for medicinal purposes, believed to clear the mind and strengthen the body during long rides. You nibble on some dried fruits, apricots, and wild cherries left over from caravan trade routes. Their chewy sweetness offers a pleasing contrast to the savory flavors. Someone jokes that these were the ancient energy bars for Mongol scouts. Historians still argue whether the use of dried fruits and nuts was widespread among ordinary herders or mainly reserved for elite warriors and traders. The truth, as usual, is probably somewhere in the middle, with access varying by season and fortune. Later, you join a group preparing gudam, a simple flatbread baked on hot stones. No ovens here, just stones heated by fire and dough slapped on like a pancake. The bread is crispy on the outside and chewy inside, perfect for scooping up yogurt or wrapping around meat. As you tear off a piece, you overhear a conversation about korkog, the legendary Mongol barbecue. This is a communal feast where chunks of mutton and vegetables are cooked inside a metal container heated by hot stones. The process steams and grills the meat, simultaneously producing a smoky, tender feast. You've heard whispers about korkog before, but the actual event is saved for special celebrations. Maybe you'll get invited one day. For now, the quiet day passes with songs, stories, and the comforting routine of tending horses. The smell of fresh grass, warmed earth, and faint traces of smoke mingle in the air. You feel a deep connection to this rhythm, one you didn't know you needed. Before sunset, you're invited to taste a curious snack, bort sog, the fried dough crisps, but today they come sprinkled with a dusting of powdered milk and a pinch of salt. The sweet-salty combo is oddly addictive. You find yourself reaching for more than your share, much to the amusement of your host. In the fading light, you think about how much you've learned. The secret menu isn't just about bold exotic flavors or rare cooking techniques. It's about balance between strength and rest, heat and cold, simplicity and ceremony. The Mongol horse riders live this balance every day, eating to endure and to celebrate. Tomorrow promises a new adventure, something ancient and mysterious, involving fermented grains and forgotten recipes. But tonight you rest easy, your belly full, and your mind peaceful. Morning arrives softly, the air crisp with the hint of impending change. Today you're introduced to a delicacy you hadn't expected, chono budog, a cooking method rivaling budog itself, but this time featuring the wolf, yes, the very symbol of Mongol myth and fearsome wildness. You watch as hunters bring in a freshly caught wolf, an event steeped in ritual and whispered reverence. The animal isn't wasted. Every part is used, honoring both predator and prey. The wolf's thick fur gleams in the morning light, a reminder of the wild edges bordering this nomadic life. The preparation is eerily similar to budog, but with subtle differences. Hot stones are inserted inside the carcass, but here aromatic herbs like wild garlic and mountain thyme are tucked alongside the meat, infusing it with a pungent, almost medicinal scent. The wolf's skin is wrapped carefully, and the whole thing is roasted over an open fire, smoke curling like a ghostly veil. You learn that wolf budog was traditionally reserved for shamans and warriors seeking strength from the spirit world. There's debate among scholars whether this practice was widespread or confined to spiritual elites, but the mystique endures. While waiting, you're handed Arkema, a cold, creamy dairy product made by churning fresh milk with cream and sometimes honey. It's like a rich, tangy butter smoothie, and you sip it slowly, savoring its cool sweetness. Nearby, a group of riders prepares kushur, but with a twist, this batch includes wild herbs and even juniper berries crushed into the filling. The scent is intoxicating, more complex than the usual meat pies you've tried. As the wolf budog cooks, you're regaled with stories of the wolf's symbolic power in Mongol culture, a creature that represents both danger and protection. Some say consuming its meat transfers some of that fierce spirit. Others warn it risks angering the spirits if not done correctly. You feel the weight of these beliefs pressing gently on your skin, like the first frost of winter. When the budog is finally opened, the steam bursts out in a wave of pungent aroma, earthy, wild, and unfamiliar. You take a cautious bite. The meat is gamey but tender, with hints of the herbs and the smoke. It's an acquired taste, one you respect but don't crave. The wolf budog feast is quieter, more solemn, less jovial than previous meals. You notice how the riders' faces soften, eyes distant, as if communing with something unseen. You try to match their mood but can't help stealing bites between stories. Later, a shaman performs a blessing, chanting softly in a language that sounds like wind through grass. You feel a chill, but it's comforting, a reminder that food here is never just nourishment. It's connection, protection, and tradition wrapped into one. To cleanse your palate, you're offered arag, once again its bubbles lively against the wolf's heaviness. The contrast is perfect. As twilight descends, the wolf budog remnants are packed carefully away. You realize you've witnessed something rare, a meal that bridges the physical and spiritual worlds, a secret held tightly by those who ride the steppe. Tomorrow's menu promises something lighter, a return to grain, and milk dishes that replenish and refresh. But tonight you carry the wolf's shadow with you, a silent guardian on this wild journey. The horizon glows soft pink as you awaken to the gentle hustle of the morning camp. Today's secret menu takes you away from heavy meats and wild feasts, steering you back toward the humble, everyday staples of the steppe grains and dairy, the backbone of Mongol sustenance. You join the riders gathering around a low fire where a large pot bubbles steadily. Inside is tsuivan, a hearty noodle stew made from hand-cut noodles, mutton, and vegetables scavenged from the sparse steppe. The smell is warm and inviting, a gentle contrast to the sharper aromas you've become accustomed to. You watch as a woman expertly tosses thin strips of dough into the pot, transforming the simple flour and water into silky ribbons that soak up the stew's rich broth. It's a dish of comfort, practicality, and tradition, fuel for the long days spent racing across endless grasslands. Tsuivan's noodles aren't the only grain-based item on offer. Nearby, a small clay bowl holds bortsog, dusted with powdered sugar, waiting to be dipped into sute tsai, the salty milk tea you've learned to appreciate. This combo is both sweet and savory, a paradox that somehow makes perfect sense on the steppe. You bite into a piece of bortsog, its crunchy exterior giving way to a tender inside. The sugary dust mingles with the salty tea, creating a flavor dance that tickles your palate. You chuckle, thinking that Mongol horse riders really know how to play with contrasts. Historians still argue whether tsuivan originated as a simple herder's meal or was influenced by trade with Chinese or Turkic neighbors. The truth likely lies in the constant exchange of ideas that define the Silk Road's pulse. While you savor the stew, a rider offers you torkog, a fermented millet porridge that tastes tangy and earthy. You spoon it carefully, appreciating the sour notes that hint at ancient preservation methods dating back millennia. The conversation drifts to the importance of grains in nomadic diets. Though meat and dairy dominate, grains were essential for energy and variety. Millet, barley, and wheat were carried in small amounts, treasured and rationed. In a quieter moment, you notice a rider dipping thin slices of dried meat into a thick honey paste, an improvised snack combining sweetness with the chewiness of preserved meat. You try it and find the marriage unexpectedly delightful, a perfect balance of energy and flavor. The afternoon is filled with friendly competitions, wrestling matches, archery contests, and horse games that test skill and endurance. Between bouts, riders share more stories about their favorite dishes, emphasizing how food and community intertwine. As the sun dips low, you're invited to try a simple but beloved dessert orai, a sweet milk jelly made by curdling boiled milk with a bit of sour milk and then cooling it. It's soft and delicate with a clean, mild sweetness that feels like a soft exhale after a long day. You reflect on how this day's menu grains, noodles, fermented porridges, and milk jelly represents the nurturing side of Mongol life. It's the food that rebuilds strength after wild nights and long rides. Tomorrow promises another culinary adventure this time, with unexpected influences from distant lands carried by the winds of trade and conquest. The dawn breaks and you're stirred by the faint scent of exotic spices drifting across the campfire smoke. Today's menu is a flavorful journey beyond the grasslands into the realm of trade conquest and cultural exchange that shaped the Mongol Empire's vast expanse. Before you stands a steaming bowl of lagman, a Central Asian noodle dish, brought by traders and adapted by Mongol riders. Thick, hand-pulled noodles swim in a savory broth, rich with lamb garlic onions, and a sprinkling of fiery chili flakes that make your nose tingle just right. You slurp eagerly, feeling the warmth spread through you, each bite carrying the echoes of faraway markets. The noodles are chewy with a smoky char from the stir-frying process that surprises your palate. It's comfort and adventure wrapped in one bowl. Nearby, a platter of shashlik sizzles over coals, marinated chunks of mutton skewered and grilled with onions and bell peppers. The tangy marinade hints at Persian and Turkic influences, a culinary gift from the Silk Road's endless exchanges. Historians still argue how much these foreign dishes truly penetrated Mongol daily life versus being reserved for the elite or the court. But in the borderlands where cultures met and mingled, these flavors became part of the evolving Mongol identity. You're handed a small cup of chai black tea brewed strong and sweetened with a touch of milk and sugar. The tea is served alongside dried apricots and pistachios, a nod to the vast trade networks linking the Mongols with Persia and beyond. As you nibble, you hear a tale of the famous Mongol envoy who once traded for spices in Samarkand, returning with secrets of saffron and cumin that would forever change the steppe's palate. The story paints a picture of a world connected by horses and caravans where food was as much diplomacy as survival. A fringe theory suggests that these culinary influences were not just practical, but deliberate attempts by Mongol rulers to integrate conquered peoples, creating a shared culture through food. It's a spicy debate, literally and figuratively. Your host brings out a final surprise pilaf, the beloved rice dish simmered with meat, carrots, and spices. The grains are fluffy and fragrant, an unexpected treat on the steppe, where rice isn't native. You savor the sweetness of carrots and the depth of slow-cooked lamb, mingling in each mouthful. The evening fades with soft music played on a moran khur, the horsehead fiddle. You feel the intertwining of tastes and traditions, the secret menu revealing not just recipes, but the story of a people forever on the move, absorbing, adapting, thriving. Tomorrow's meal promises a final secret, something both humble and profound, a dish that embodies the spirit of the steppe itself. The morning air is crisp and still the steppe stretching wide and endless around you. Today's secret menu offers a humble, profound finale, the dish that embodies the spirit of the Mongol horse riders, borts the dried meat that sustains them through long winters and endless journeys. You watch as a rider expertly slices thin strips from a slab of boards, the dark, leathery meat, sun-dried and cured over weeks. It's tough, almost jerky-like, but packed with concentrated flavor and nutrients, an ancient survival strategy perfectly suited to nomadic life. You bite into a piece, its rich, smoky taste unfolding slowly as you chew. It's salty, slightly gamey, with a whisper of the steppe's grasses and the smoke of open fires. The texture demands patience, but you find it strangely satisfying, like chewing on history itself. Borts wasn't just food, it was lifeblood. Mongol riders carried it in pouches ready to be rehydrated in boiling water or eaten raw when hunger struck. It was portable, durable, and essential. Historians still argue how widespread Bort's consumption was, beyond warriors and travelers. Some suggest it was a last resort during harsh winters, while others believe it was a staple year-round. Either way, it represents endurance. While chewing, you learn about kurat, the hard, salty cheese balls made from dried yogurt. They're like concentrated dairy energy bombs, perfect for quick snacks. You pop one into your mouth, its sour saltiness, a surprising kick that wakes you up better than any coffee. The writers tell stories of survival of winter storms faced with only borts and kurut to keep them alive. They talk of the bond between man and horse, how both rely on simple, reliable nourishment to outlast the steppe's challenges. As you sit by the fire, the taste of dried meat lingering, you feel a deep respect for this austere cuisine. It's not about luxury or indulgence, but resilience, tradition, and the raw beauty of survival. To close your journey, you're offered a final cup of arag, the fermented mare's milk, sparkling softly in the twilight. The bubbles tickle your lips, a fitting end to a feast that's been as much about spirit as sustenance. You lean back, the vast steppe sky above, turning deep indigo stars, blinking awake like ancient watchers. The secret menu of Mongol horse riders has unfolded before you, a tapestry of flavors, stories, and survival. Your body feels tired, full, and oddly at peace. You realize this journey wasn't just about food, it was about connection to land, to history, and to a way of life that thrives on simplicity and strength. As the fire dies down, you close your eyes, the whispers of the steppe night wrapping around you like a familiar blanket.